Hello and welcome to our web chat on the new OpenLink Cloud, the ecosystem for Treasury. We are joined by Mark O'Toole, Vice President, Commodities and Treasury Solutions at OpenLink. And we'll be examining three aspects of this new system. The first of which is cloud platform itself. What were the challenges across to make an ecosystem for Treasury, Mark? What was the new things you had to do?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. At the start, I'd say we spent a long time examining how we wanted to be in the cloud. I know there's a lot of folks out there that claim cloud or have some component of a hosted environment or are a SaaS provider of these type of solutions. And while we weren't first mover in the moving into the cloud, we spent a lot of time working actually with some of our largest tier one customers around the globe, trying to examine what their needs were by utilizing this type of platform. So ultimately what we've arrived with recently with our launch is really the first enterprise Treasury cloud platform in the marketplace. And by that, I mean, unlike SaaS providers that have no flexibility and limited functionality, we've allowed our clients to do is really take advantage of the full enterprise of our solutions in the public. And what that's done is it's actually the timing is pretty good too. If you look at what's going on in corporates around the globe, not just here in America or in EMEA, it's just a move towards better risk management, better credit management across the entire enterprise. And also we're seeing the Treasury become more strategic to the business. And a lot of the limitations, I think, within Treasury has been, we'd love to do more with technology, but A, we don't have necessarily a dedicated IT staff to be able to work with that. And B, they didn't have functionality or the technology that they had in-house to already do that. So what we've observed over the last 2 years is a lot of companies doing workarounds. They're still working with spreadsheets or homegrown systems in addition to, traditional TMS vendors. So what this platform has allowed them to do is, not worry so much about the IT folks. You're able to literally outsource the technology to a vendor like OpenLink and then be able to deploy the functionality and the flexibility of that across the enterprise.
So what are the differences that the early benefits of OpenLink Cloud provide? Because quite a few of these are similar to the normal SaaS provider. What are the differences between what you're doing and what the normal SaaS provider would be supplying?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think outside of just the depth and breadth of functionality across an enterprise, it's flexibility. At the core of OpenLink's success has been the flexibility in the applications and the functionality that we provide on a single platform. What has that done for our clients? It's enabled them to utilize what they see as the nature of their competitiveness in the marketplace, the ability for the companies we work with to be competitive, have clear differentiators. And what allows them to do that is the flexibility of an application like this in the cloud. What I mean really by that is instead of companies being forced to pretty much adhere to whatever the software or fintech company they're working with, lack of functionality, or just the limitations of what they would provide. We're somewhat the opposite of that. We allow the flexibility for our clients to be able to really model their competitive differentiators into a system like this. So instead of the tail wagging the dog, it's pretty much the other way around.
Okay, but some of these things are already available. What are the key differences, the key pieces that are a differentiator for you, OpenLink?
From a technology point of view, it's the scalability too, and we'll talk about that in a second, I guess. But I mean, traditionally, the OpenLink has been a local install, and so we're moving all of our products into the cloud. So that's given customers the ability to take that flexibility and the power of a system like this, enterprise system, and put it into the cloud. It's helping reduce their upfront CapEx and move a lot of the operating costs over to OpEx for maintenance. It's also given clients faster time to market in terms of getting the software installed. Going now from an average of, without the cloud, 6 to 8 weeks to deploy that over to less than 2 weeks when we're using our public cloud. So, there's a lot of IT benefits outside of just the functional benefits that a user would expect to gain from using an enterprise cloud platform.
If you look at the summary of what you're doing, I think this title, Unconstrained Power, sums it all up in a way. Talk me through this, because I think this is fundamental here.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, we have a lot of tier one clients that thousands of users using the application around the globe for their mission critical operations, and so over the years, we built this scalable grid-like software capacities where the software can handle and scale up and scale down based on computational power and engines, the risk engines that we have inside the system. So when we thought about moving over into the public cloud, is how do we take all that, the power of that our clients love and utilize on a daily basis, and make that something that's very operable within the public cloud. And so one of the benefits there is typically if you buy a software like this, a big enterprise platform that it becomes a sort of a mission critical to your business, you have to scale from an IT perspective. You're going to have to scale and buy servers and scale your architecture to meet the peak demand that you could likely hit. So for example, you'll have to say, well, okay, maybe one day of the year we're going to use 10, 20 servers, and then the rest of the time we're going to use 5, and then in the off hours we use none, and things like that. So what we've allowed with the public cloud and working with Azure, where we were able to custom fit this in such that a user or a customer is only paying for the power when they need it. So instead of having redundant servers and redundant IT and architecture sitting around waiting to be used at peak hours or in business hours, it's you pay as you go.
Does that mean that I have to sign up, tell you that I'm going to have a peak processing, because some of your calculations on commodity risk are really very advanced and take hours and sometimes days to calculate on normal systems? Do you have to sign up, or how do I manage this as a user?
The user shouldn't be worried or bothered about whether they need to notify somebody in order to do that type of work. So that's we take the heavy lifting of that away, and so as you use it, the architecture and the setup within the public cloud will understand, okay, we're going to be utilizing more power, so it knows what it needs to do in order to be able to perform those calculations. So from a user's perspective, they just do the business as usual. It's not something that they will have to alert OpenLink about.
There must be a problem in charging for this, because you need to have some indication, don't you, of how much they're going to use. How do you manage that?
But that's usually just a contractual thing that we handle with our cloud contracts that talks about usage and things like that.
Okay, so a large-scale user, I've got cash management and liquidity management concerns and issues, and on top of that, I'm a major user of 2 or 3 commodities. How would I use the system to manage all of that rather than just individual pieces?
Yeah, this is a great question. One of the things about the platform is it's enterprise in nature. And really what I mean by that is it gives on a single platform, a single database, the ability for treasurers and corporates in general to be able to get all of this data in a single place so you can do data and analysis. So if we take, for example, manufacturing or consumer packaged goods, or food and beverage is a good example there. For a lot of our big tier 1, tier 2 clients in that space, for systems like this, the challenge that they had was visibility, lack of visibility really, and transparency into what was going on within the procurement part of the business. In those parts of the business, oftentimes you're looking at billions and billions of dollars of commodities exposure that was somewhat hidden for Treasury. It had embedded FX costs and risks around currency inside that supply chain. So what a system like this does is it puts it all on a single platform. So as procurement starts to do its business, works its direct spend and category management and commodities risk management around that, any cash flow impacts or currency and or commodities impacts in terms of hedging and stuff is visible immediately into Treasury. So they can be more proactive around managing that and spotting outliers and being able to more effectively hedge. So for example, instead of having category managers hedging in different regions around the world or for their plants needs, they can, the corporate perspective really is they can see if you're modeling wheat, for example, I can aggregate all of my wheat exposures around the world and then go and hedge that once and then allocate the cost of that hedge back to each of those regions.
So in essence, this is a cloud ecosystem for Treasury that gives you the whole of cash and liquidity and commodity management all in one place. Is
yes.
that how you think of it?
It's yes, only even broader than that. So, I mean, you know, we're working with clients now on the new collateral management and variation margin rules. We're working with clients also on the IFSR 9, EMIR, and FACTA and FBAR, all the things that where we go into organizations, they have a little system for that, or they have a homegrown system to handle some of these aspects. And that's what you're really able to layer in on this single platform. It's not just all the things we just mentioned here, but it's also the enterprise view across all of your asset classes. It's your enterprise credit view, you know, your cash flow at risk and potential future exposure risks against your counterparties, for example.
Thank you, Mark. That was most interesting.
Thanks for your time, Jack.